background. But let's begin by looking at leaders from around the world who are congratulating US President-elect Joe Biden as he is the projected winner of the 2020 presidential election. But not all of them have been so forthcoming, and it's silence from certain countries that we're going to turn our attention now to. We're specifically thinking of the likes of China, of Brazil, and also Russia. So with us is Kerry Allen, who is our China media analyst. Luis Fajardo is also with us. He is in Miami and monitors media in Latin America. And Sergei Goryashko is from BBC Russian. Thank you all for being with us. Sergei, first of all, deafening silence from President Putin?
Well, yes, his spokesperson told that Vladimir Putin will not congratulate Joe Biden until the United States election results are finalized. Like his spokesperson, Dmitry Peskov, told that there are some legal procedures ahead, and the incumbent president is not agreed with calling Joe Biden to win. And Peskov cited certain legal procedures, and they are waiting for them to finalize, and only after that Kremlin will probably react on the outcome of the American elections. But nevertheless, in 2016, when Trump won the elections, he's been called president also by the media. It was not a problem for President Putin to congratulate him, and he was not waiting for any legal procedures which were possible or not possible at the time. So it's quite really, as you mentioned, deafening silence, and that's quite a strange thing to do for the Kremlin. Apart from they are really busy with the Nagorno-Karabakh situation for now, probably, which is taking their minds more than the outcome of the presidential election in the United States.
Is it as simple as to suggest that President Putin and President Trump had a pretty good relationship, and Joe Biden is more likely to give President Putin, or try to give President Putin, a tougher time?
Well, I would say that Trump and Putin actually had the sort of connection during these last 4 years, because actually there were only more sanctions for Russia from the United States. There were more reports of probably attempts of meddling into the elections or into something else. The rhetorics were quite harsh, and actually it was a state of a Cold War, in fact. Nevertheless, Trump has mentioned that he would be ready to become friends with Putin, that he would make a good deal with him, and stuff like that. Was probably no actual things which would prove that, because relationship were on its lowest point in history, and there is no signs that it will be getting any better. And I would actually mention that probably Biden is a better option for Kremlin right now, because as a person who has been in United States politics since the 70s, a person who came to Russia during the Soviet times and talked to some Soviet leaders, and who's like a very, very experienced and very predictable guy. It's better for Putin than the option Trump, because Trump is really unpredictable. They didn't know what to wait from him, how would he react, what he would do, and it was like a very like a bomb, actually. So it's probably a better option for now with Biden, but there is no signs that the relationship will gonna get better.
Really interesting. Let's bring Kerry Allen in now for a perspective on China. We haven't heard anything so far from China, Kerry.
Not yet from Xi Jinping, but the foreign ministry today told a daily briefing. We noticed that Mr. Biden has declared election victory, and we understand that the US presidential election result will be determined following US laws and procedures. So very similar to Russia in that they're kind of keeping back for now. But yeah, I mean, there's been signals in state media that they acknowledge that Joe Biden is president-elect. But at the same time, yeah, this caution is particularly interesting that China's leader doesn't want to outright come out and say yet. Well done.
And why do we know why that is? Because, I mean, it was quite a difficult relationship between China and the US under President Trump.
Gosh, just a bit, yeah. I mean, it's been an interesting few years. There's been the trade war between the two countries. Relations have really been bad with COVID-19, with President Trump calling COVID-19 Kung flu and the China virus. I mean, that was something that the Chinese public just didn't like whatsoever. And then also the US's involvement in various Chinese human rights issues, so getting involved in Xinjiang, in Hong Kong with the protests last year, and with Taiwan. All of this just didn't resonate at all with the Chinese public. There was a lot of anger about this. But at the same time, Chinese people love to hate Trump. They really, they like the idea that, well, a lot of people think he's stupid, and they think that a stupid Trump is better than maybe, there are people who think that Joe Biden might be more tough on China than Donald Trump would. So at the same time, there's a lot of conversations happening on platforms like Sina Weibo, which is China's version of Facebook or Twitter, with people saying, because with Donald Trump disputing the idea that the election has been called yet, people saying, Comrade Trump, don't give up, just keep trying.
Do we have any idea what Joe Biden's approach to China would be? Has he given us any inkling yet?
Well, there's a fair bit coming out in state media suggesting that he's going to, Global Times, for example, said that it thinks that he's going to try and ease and control the relationship. Global Times is the big foreign affairs newspaper in China. It's the main newspaper. But it says at the same time that it thinks the US is still going to have a competitive and defensive mentality towards the country. So it still believes that China's going to up the ante. At the same time, if you look at independent media in places like Taiwan, they actually think that relations are going to change. They think that the US is going to be less hawkish on China. So there is an anticipation that the relationship is going to get better because of how volatile it's been under Donald Trump.
Well, I want to bring in Luis now because I want to look at the issue in Brazil. Lots of people have called Jair Bolsonaro the tropical Trump. They get on well, didn't they, Trump and Bolsonaro? So is the thinking that there's been no reaction because he was a person who got on well with Trump?
Absolutely. As you said, many people called Bolsonaro the Trump of the tropics. And I think a few leaders had so openly declared themselves to be in favor of Donald Trump in this electoral process as Bolsonaro himself. They clearly share a particular style, the nationalist ideas, and many policy responses, for example, notoriously on the coronavirus. However, President Bolsonaro is not reacting at all to the Biden victory, and the media in Brazil is starting to complain about it. They're starting to say that Brazil is becoming even more isolated in the world now that Bolsonaro, in what they describe as maybe an attempt to deny reality, to refuse to accept the reality that Joe Biden is the president-elect, and a situation that clearly changes the perspectives for relations for Brazil with the U.S.
And if we look at Joe Biden and the potential relationship, they're likely to clash, aren't they, Bolsonaro and Joe Biden, on climate change, if nothing else? Exactly.
One of the very few times that Latin America showed up in the U.S. electoral debate, specifically in one of the presidential debates, was an instance in which Joe Biden issued what many interpreted in Brazil as a threat, telling Brazil that if it didn't change its policies towards the environment, and in particular being the custodians of the Amazon, they could actually face the perspective of unpleasant economic responses, basically sanctions. On the other hand, Biden was suggesting that Brazil might actually receive economic aid if it instead changed to a more cooperative stance in the environment. And at that moment, Jair Bolsonaro reacted very strongly against that, suggesting that it was an intolerable intermission in Brazilian internal affairs. So clearly it's going to be more difficult for Bolsonaro to get along with Biden than it was with Donald Trump in the last few years.
Thank you so much, all of you, for that insight. You heard there from Luis Fajardo, who is in Miami. Also heard from Kerry Allen, who's our China media analyst, and Sergei Goryashko, who is from BBC Russia.